Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. And good morning to you.
Hello.
How's things over there then, wherever you are?
Warmish. Warmish.
Warmish, okay.
Warmish, meaning effing hot, darling.
We haven't had any thunderstorms yet at all. It did get a bit muggy last night, though.
We had a thunderstorm yesterday afternoon with no lightning and some very satisfying tropical rain.
Oh, God.
And I woke up to rain this morning, but it's pretty steamy again now. And the Ocado man's just been, and he practically cried, honestly.
Oh, bless him. Hold on.
I know.
Well, Phoebe went up to get some fans at the weekend because the night time was absolutely unbearable, and it's made a huge difference, actually.
I found two fans in the house here, one in the laundry room office that I've been staring at for a month, sort of vaguely without registering what it was. And I was tapping with Mary and I went, oh my God, I'm looking at a fan. And then when my nephew's girlfriend delivered the cat on Sunday, she said, oh, there's a very nice fan in the kitchen. So I've got one in the bedroom and one in the office. And the one in the office is very helpful. It's on me now. But the one in the bedroom I find just recycles hot air.
Yeah, but it does not feel like it. Just moving it, the air is better, isn't it? Though
sometimes, not 100%, to be honest. But you know, I was going to say I'm not complaining. I am complaining. I think this last week has been completely unbearable.
Yeah, it's been like Greece, really, and it makes you slow down quite a lot, doesn't it?
Well, I rescheduled the only client I had booked in because my brain isn't worth the money they pay me at 35 degrees.
It's melting.
Yeah, it's more than melting. It's like I haven't really got the patience with them, frankly.
Yeah. So anything much happened in your week?
Well, the cat's alive, but the garden's dead. The cat, because the cat's not allowed out into the garden, she's in the large kitchen, dining room and conservatory, but it's very boiling in there even still today. And because it's too hot for me to sit in there, I can't play with her, which is a bit tragic. And I have been very worried about her. And actually, even Mary and I do these daily tappings. One day I had to tap on it because I was so anxious about, you know, how cruel it was. I mean, it's not as cruel as a cattery and it's not a small space, but it's hot as Hades and there's nobody to play with. She's got food, she's got water, she's got toys, she's got shade, she's got everything she could need except companionship and cooler temperatures. And in that regard, she's similar to me. I don't need companionship, but I certainly need cooler temperatures. So I'm pleased she's alive on Thursday and they're coming to fetch her on Sunday. But the garden is definitely dead. And whether or not the tropical rain yesterday and the lovely English rain this morning will resuscitate it, we can but only hope, Nicola, because that's my responsibility and I've failed.
Well, the only consolation is that there are plenty of cats in Greece and it gets up to 40 degrees regularly there and they seem to manage it.
Yes, but imagine your week this week and my week this week wearing a fur coat.
Yeah, yes, that does sound good.
You've got a fan and I've got windows and doors open. She hasn't got either of those.
Yeah, no, and I had to take my cardigan. I put my cardigan on to look fairly respectable for my 8 o'clock call this morning. Whatever possessed me to schedule 8 o'clock calls.
I don't even bother that now. I've got horribly fat and ugly arms, but I just open the door to everybody like that now because it's just unbearable.
Yeah, and I had to take it off again. Yes, exactly.
Anyway, so here are the two British women talking about the weather. I've got absolutely nothing else to report in this section except a cat alive, a garden dead, and the heat. Have you? Well,
we went to, it was Chloe's 26th birthday on Tuesday.
I mean, they're growing up so fast.
I know they are. It's absolutely terrifying, isn't it? And we went to my dad's for a barbecue, and because everyone's on furlough or whatever it is, everyone was able to get together on a Tuesday lunchtime, which was
I know, very civilised, isn't it?
We met Chloe's boyfriend for the first time. She's actually living with the chap now. He's been with him for about 4 years.
And who is he?
His name is Matt, and he seems to love her very much. And they bought a house together, and they seem very happy. So, but they got a dog who is a golden retriever called Frank Tails.
Yes, I follow Frank on Facebook.
Yeah, I've just been elevated to
super fan
when you get
you're one of Fank's super fans.
Yeah, I gave her a card that was made by one of Phoebe's friends, who's an artist. It had a golden retriever painted on the front, which was lovely, and I gave her a silver coin. And then we had a little, because she bought back in Christmas 2017, which anyone who's listening knows was the absolute peak for Bitcoin when it got to 20,000. She bought 100 quid's worth on that day, at Christmas Day. And she's hung on to it ever since, bless her, saying, I know it will come good eventually, Auntie Nicola. And I said, well, here's something else that may come good eventually. So that was really nice. And she brought Frank Tails, so I got to meet him. He is really a darling dog. He really is.
I bet.
He's not grown up enough yet, but my dad used to have golden retrievers, so my dad was very... and Irving came over as well. Irving's just come back with my ex-husband. This is for the benefit of the listeners. He's just back from 3 days cycling.
Some sort of cycling tour in the lakes or something.
No,
only Irving could do strenuous physical exercise in these temperatures.
And he was going off after the lunch to play tennis. I said it's a good job we didn't stay married, really, isn't it? Yeah. And my dad, at one point, shouted across, because we were sitting having a good old chat under the sun thing awning, and my dad, he's had a couple of drinks, he gets a bit leery, and he shouted across, he said, that's the best you two have got on for the last 15 years, isn't it?
Well, I don't think that's true, actually. You get on reasonably well most of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But my dad sold his house, he put it on the market, got full asking price for it, because, of course, we keep forgetting, don't we, that the stamp duty thing.
No, I don't forget. Everything I want from the Rightmove wish list is being snatched up instantly at the moment.
No, exactly. Property's moving fast, and he's done that because they're going back to New Zealand because he doesn't want to live here under COVID conditions, and he's able to go back because they were there 15 years and they've got residency permits.
He knows, does he, that New Zealand is the first to go back into lockdown imminently?
I know. Well, you've just ruined the point of my story.
Oh, sorry, darling.
I'll have to edit that out.
Sorry.
No, he's but they've been delayed because even though they've sold their house, the plan was for one of them to go over immediately, find them somewhere to live. They're going to rent to keep their assets liquid so they can make choices. And then the cat was going to be put on a plane because the cat comes out of quarantine after 10 days and there needs to be someone there to get him. Hardy, his name is. And he's the fattest cat I've ever seen, I have to say. And so now they can't do that because... and then the other one was going to follow. Now they can't do that because Hardy has to have a rabies injection. And then you have to stay in the country for 6 months after your rabies injection to make sure you haven't got rabies. Sounds like a bit of overkill to me, but they've got to rent a cottage somewhere else because they don't want to lose their buyer. Rent a cottage somewhere else till February, and then one of them could get on a plane and then receive Hardy. But yes, he's not really happy at all at the news that they've got.
I think by February, by the way, it'll be much easier to move from country to country. I do.
So so it was a lovely afternoon. Lots of us were there. We all had a very nice barbecue lunch, and it was wonderful. Played poker last night, absolutely doing quite well until the last minute, and then crashed out at 22.
That's always the worry, isn't it? Sometimes I have to cheat slightly on my brain training because there's a game where you play and you're making these sort of rash moves all the time, and if I delay making the last rash move, I can hang on to the assets I've acquired in the thing.
It's I mean, it was good. Pete and I had a lovely evening. We had a good old a good old chat. We start with a long tournament, and so we can have a good chat, and then as either of us gets knocked out of that, we go into sort of smaller 9-man games. But it was a very pleasant evening. And that was it, really. So
the two of you are not desperately focused on the poker, then?
Not really, no. We'll focus on what's...
It's just an excuse for a chat, isn't it?
Well, it is, and it's really nice because he's driven it, and I'm the kind of person who I'm, a bit diffident about suggesting... Well, I've got, friends, and I'm a bit diffident about suggesting outings and things. But he's pushed this through, because we used to go on a Wednesday night to the pub up the road, and of course they've shut. But he said, no, let's do it every week online and stick to it. And he's got a new girlfriend, so he's told her, Wednesday night's poker night. So I was quite impressed with him for that. And he's a nice chap. I enjoy his company enormously. What's fueled your fire then, if anything?
You go first, because I've got a very nice story in here, but it's a bit braggy. So let's let you go first.
All right. Well, nothing really. I've got the v-zine going again. I've forced myself, and it is hard to create content because Margelle, my VA, wanted a a week in hand. So and I'm terminally late for everything, delivering everything, because it is quite hard to deliver content. And but I've done it anyway. And so we're a week in hand. So we've got 3 weeks episodes now, and they've gone onto YouTube. They don't get huge views on YouTube, but they do mount up. And I know people are watching them because clients have told me they did. And it goes right through from a video that I deliver to my VA right through onto YouTube, all the social media platforms, and into a podcast eventually, which I just refreshed today. So I just like that I'm creating at least 2 solid bits of content a week, and I've got to keep that up, really. And it's nice for Margell anyway. Sorry?
I was going to say we've lulled Margell into this sense of security by giving her the week in hand in the podcast, haven't we?
Yes, exactly.
She's used to that method of working. It gives her room for things to go wrong. Yeah, I like it too, to be honest. It's just I find it hard to gear myself up at the beginning, but once I'm geared up, I trot along every week by week. I think it is the best way to do it. It sometimes does make our news a bit behind the beat.
Yeah, not often though. There's not many things that happen within a week, is there, that you can't...
Not during lockdown, but if you're being topical at all, life's moved on a lot in 8 days.
Yeah, I suppose so. What about you then?
Well, I've got this marvellous story which you saw on Facebook about the client's partner and maths. Did you see that?
No, I don't think I did.
Oh, so I'm going to tell you more about them later in Who or What's Impressed. But in this early part, apropos of nothing at all, my client sent me an email to say, this is a direct quote from my other half: if Judith had been my maths teacher, I'd have got on really well with maths. I would have been bloody brilliant at maths, is what it says. And this man must be nearly 50, I would think. And she says, from someone who's always described himself as maths blind. And I replied saying, I totally understand where he's coming from. It took me 3 goes to get my maths O-level before the penny dropped. And I wrote to my maths teacher to tell her I was an accountant and to thank her for giving up her lunch breaks for ungrateful teenage girls. And she was wonderful in her reply. And my client goes, your maths teacher's anecdote gives me shivers. Then she goes, C, who's her other half, preceded quote of the day with, isn't maths wonderful? She says, I've been telling him he's good at it for ages. He followed quote of the day about you by saying, reference 1 or 2 of your Facebook posts. Judith says things like, she works out how 6 plus 7 equals by doing X, 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 which is exactly how I would do it, She goes, the boy is aglow. I said, I'd put it in the podcast anonymously, and she replied, I think this is him. I failed CSE maths. This is not her because she went to Oxford. I failed CSE maths, and when I looked at the exam paper, I thought I was better off just guessing the whole lot. I got 1 mark for putting my name on the paper, and I really disliked the maths teacher, which is important to mention. But in my mid-20s, I picked up a book in a second-hand bookshop called The Buddha of Maths and read it cover to cover, and it all made sense. Have you read The Buddha of Maths?
I haven't, but it sounds like I need to.
I haven't even heard of The Buddha of Maths. It does sound good. Anyway, it's a marvellous story about, my friend Susie from Manchester, who used to, when she was still working, teach teachers how to teach maths. And she came to London when she was learning how to do this, and she set us all this, sum. And then we all had to say how we did it. And my brother was very critical of how I'd done it. He went, oh, Jude. And I revealed how I'd done it. And she said, it doesn't matter how you do it, just as long as you can get an answer.
Yeah.
And that is so liberating to know, there's no right way or wrong way to do maths or anything else in life, just as long as you've got a way of doing it. And what it goes back to is how badly it was taught, how much we didn't want to learn when we were school children and teenagers, how whether or not we liked the teacher and she or he took an interest in us was pivotal. Yeah. How we were told we couldn't sing or we couldn't draw or we were, it's really... It's almost like education is spoiled on the young in a way, and it spoils the young. And then, but blissfully, he and I, at different stages of our adult lives, have discovered joy in maths. And of course, now I'm slightly rediscovering joy in art because of all these artists in my life. It's just, why would a teacher, I sort of understand this, why would a teacher shut down learning and enthusiasm when what you could be doing would be opening that up for children?
Yeah, well, that's the difference between a good teacher and someone who's just doing it to get by, isn't it? I remember a couple.
Well, except that the system must beat it out of them, Nicola. It's like politicians. They must all go into it fresh-faced and enthusiastic to make changes in the world. But as soon as you get there and the system, you realise the system's broken and it's hateful and you haven't got enough tools to do the job, and the children are vile. It knocks it out of you. All that, what's it called? Sort of fresh-faced innocence that you had going into any career can be knocked out of you quite quickly if you're unlucky. And I think with teaching, that probably is the case. But Mrs. Bennett, who gave up her lunch breaks for me and Perfect Jane and somebody else, I don't believe she was even paid for that.
No, probably not. No.
She did it out of love for her students.
Yeah. I had a very inspirational English teacher, Miss Rowlands, her name was, and she was rather unaffectionately known as Rubberneck Rowlands because children were cruel. And she really did take an interest in me and encouraged me in English particularly and history. And I just, will always remember her, unlike my English teacher who made me pay to enter my O-levels. But he should remain nameless, except I did remember his name the other day. It's gone again.
Yes, you
now.
did, yes.
I think I called him out.
I can remember my two English teachers' names as well, and the girls in my class used to take the mickey out of me for the sixth form English because the English teacher and I had a rapport, and she would call my name mid-sentence. And everybody afterwards would take the mick out of me because it's like she could see she had a live one in me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Who totally got the war poets and everything, and she and I were almost in like, what's the female equivalent of a bromance, a fromance, whatever, over the text,
Pash.
It's a pash, yes. She and I were almost in a pash. Actually, she had twin sons, one of whom still reads the news to this very day. So,
fancy that.
Yeah,
I got really, really interested in maths when I started to work out compound interest and things like that, and how much property would appreciate. That's what I really, really enjoyed.
Actually, this is how this story continues at the end. Who are what's impressed, because this is about the two of them buying a property that makes a passive income. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. But I think, another week I'll talk to you about how sexy double entry bookkeeping, which of course was invented, I think, in the 1600s.
Never quite got double entry.
Oh, don't start me today, okay?
Well, I'll be telling you about a very sexy accountant in my Who or What's It.
You see, and as if that was a contradiction in terms, it so is not.
I love accountants.
Yeah, there you go.
So what's our focus of the week then?
It's from Sarah Johnson, who says I couldn't find out much about her. It says she's a speech and language therapist. I'm not convinced about that, but she might be. And I think that looked like her old job. That's all I could find out from her about, and I couldn't find a Facebook page. Hello, Sarah. I'm calling this one Being Brave in Business. And when we called, a few weeks ago for topics, she said being brave, getting in your own way by being scared to be out there. Twitter and other platforms can be hostile. Lots of people following to unfollow. Tactics and approaches that make me want to go more into myself. I always used to think of myself as an extrovert, but having my daughter with additional support needs has rocked all the ground beneath me. So Sarah is having to be brave in business and in life.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't really know anything about this follow to unfollow business. I can't see why anyone would do that. It might be a thing, but I don't think you need to worry about it, Sarah, really. I'm not a brave person at all, but in some things I don't even think about it.
Could I just make, sorry, yeah. I totally disagree with you there. What you mean is, like me, we're not physically brave, but in business, we're totally brave, you and me.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say, some might even say foolhardy.
Well, yes, indeed.
In fact, what was it you said to me the other day about something? I
said something about crashing and burning, going down in a blaze of glory.
Yeah, going down in a blaze of glory.
And you said, "Is there any other way to go?" Or words to that effect?
Yeah. I mean, I'm really scared of spiders, as you know, and daddy long legs. There was one here the other night, and the kids found it highly amusing. I've had to be brave in my personal life a few times when my mum got very sick, and I had to, call the doctor and do the nasty on the signature. I had to be brave when Steve died. I had to, I had to be really brave on some occasions then. But with business, I don't find it scary at all. Buying a £500,000 hotel, no money down, some would argue was foolhardy, but it didn't feel scary at the time. It just felt like something I should do because I could do it. looking back, I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah, so you learned something by doing it.
Yeah, I certainly did.
Looking back, I would do what you did again.
Sorry?
I would do that now.
Would you?
Yeah, I would.
What, buy a bed and breakfast?
Well, do it by a hotel, no money down. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually think that was one of the best things you ever did, and you gave it up too soon.
Yes, that's very true. Because
you two fell in love with internet marketing.
Yes, we did. Yes.
And the B&B guest got in the way, but actually it was a thriving little business on the cusp of success, with real estate value thrown in.
Well,
I think that was a genius thing, Nicola. That thing you did.
No, I mean it was, and it launched the Money Gym because I was able to have my workshops there, and we would never have met if I hadn't done the occasion.
No.
Steve and I wouldn't have got so friendly if he hadn't come to run it. And
only B&B I'd deign to stay in.
Absolutely. And so there were lots of pluses in it, but it was a big, brave thing that not a lot of people would have done. And the other thing I was thinking about how I've been brave in business is just toughing out the hard times, just biting the bullet, lots of ups and downs, just gritting my teeth and carrying on, really. That's taken a certain bravery, which I know you've got as well, because but we've been at it for a long time, so we're literally trained like physical training. Now let's go back to Sarah. There's two things I want to discuss here before I talk more about how I've been brave in business. One is she explains what the situation is. The ground beneath her has been rocked by having a daughter with additional needs, so I completely understand that, and I think that would put you in a place where life feels a bit more risky than it did before. And she then talks about hostile platforms, and a lot of my clients do Twitter's
understand.
Horrible.
Well, and also LinkedIn, where do you remember Alison Grimston? Alison Grimston was a doctor,
yes.
And when she was also a holistic vet, and whenever she talked on LinkedIn about holistic medicine for animals, they were vile to her.
Really?
They absolutely took her head off. And, a nice girl. Alison was a nice girl. She was a GP. She probably had to do some brave things as well as a GP, like sign death certificates and God knows what. But she was actually any one of my clients our clients who's ever had a job. So if they've come from an employment environment and we're telling them to get out there on social media, they don't want to, they don't like it, they find it hostile. And indeed, it can be hostile. I do understand what she means by follow to unfollow, because what's happening to me on Facebook, where everybody wants to be my friend, is they ask to be my friend, and how the majority of them then go on to pay. Not some, because I've made some genuine friends like this, but the majority of them ask me to like their Facebook page. And if it's something I like, then I like it. But if it's something I don't like or have no interest in, or I'm never going to use, or it's miles away and I can't give myself to it in any sense, I don't. And then if I say no to liking their page, then they unfriend me, because their goal was to get somebody to like their page.
But why does that bother?
Well, no, what she's saying is tactics and approaches that make me want to go more into myself. And I understand that, because it feels, a public platform feels exposed.
Well, I suppose it does if you're worrying about what people think of you.
But if you've come from a job, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
And if you've got other things that have rocked you a bit going on in your world.
I'm not.
We forget how gnarled. We are gnarled and hard.
Gnarled and hard, like old roots.
Yeah, we are. Because we've been doing it so long.
But I'm totally not taking away from what Sarah's saying about how she feels, because that is how she feels, and that's perfectly, valid. But I think you've got to, it's such a brilliant way to attract clients that you've got to try and force yourself through it, but find a way to do it that feels right to you.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
And the reason, God, we say this every week, don't we? The reason she's not feeling comfortable or not enjoying it is because it's the wrong platform and she's doing it in the wrong way. She's got to find a platform that she likes, one that she probably uses, and she's got to find a way to create content that will attract her ideal clients, but not care about the trolls.
Well,
I've got to be honest, I've hardly ever been trolled. It's, I think, do I give off a vibe that just says, I'm not going to give a shit if you troll me, so don't bother, kind of thing.
You don't pay much attention to the responses. You're all about the broadcasting.
Yes, I do try.
You're all about getting the message out, okay?
Yeah,
so you're actually blind to, somebody did troll you a bit in the last week and you didn't see it. Hurrah.
Oh, where is that then?
I'm not going to tell you. That's the point. You haven't seen it. Hurrah.
Where? You have to tell me now.
I'll tell you after the show.
Okay, all right.
But, what all Sarah is saying here is that, I imagine from her photograph, she's about half our age. And she's got things going on in her life. And she will learn to be braver and to care less. But I do agree with you that the only way to do social media is a way that you, sooner or later, and it doesn't need to take forever, find to enjoy yourself and play with nice people, and they see that you're nice, and then you've got this law of attraction stuff going on, and nastiness does fall away. So, follow your nous. If it's saying, I don't like it over there, it's hostile. If you find it hostile, come out of that water.
Yeah.
And also, don't follow blindly advice from people who don't really know what they're talking about. Have a go yourself and find something that you like.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reason I'd started the v-zine again, because I really enjoy video editing. I just really enjoy it. It's a creative outlet for me. And so I thought, I really don't enjoy anymore writing newsletters with text.
Many people don't read them anymore. That's why.
No, well, they do, unfortunately. Well, so I should be doing them. But the point is that I really much more enjoy putting a colourful picture in a newsletter. I've just sent out my newsletter this week. It's got barely anything in it apart from colourful pictures, which click through to the lovely content we've created, which is of value to people. And if people don't want to click through, they don't have to. Nobody ever unsubscribes from. Very rarely do I get an unsubscribe, because I'm just sharing great content, rather than, and dropping in links where people can come and sign up for things for free. It's, you've just got to find a way to do it that makes you feel comfortable and a way of creating content that you enjoy, whether that's talking like we do on an audio only podcast, or whether it's Pete and I are going to start doing some lives together soon to test out whether we would work together well. And you just got to think about what you enjoy, but you've got to do something, because it's such an opportunity and it can't be missed, really.
So what she wanted to talk about was being brave. So I asked myself yesterday, how have I chosen to be brave in business?
Yes.
Being self-employed in the first one, when no one else in my family is or was. I'm the only self-employed person in my family now or ever.
Wow. So
being prepared to be a weirdo.
Yes. I mean, really, when you think about that, that's absolutely huge, isn't it? That you're
yes, isn't it? And imagine I was 22 at the time, and I was not this confident, bolshy old bag I am now at 22. I was a very nice, quiet little girl still.
Yeah. I've seen pictures. You was.
I was a sweetheart.
Mm.
Then 20 years later, I switched careers from accountant to coach. That was brave, because accountant is well paid and coach somewhat less so.
Yeah.
Learning to trust myself, this is my favourite, not chasing every shiny new thing, knowing I know enough. Be more confident, Sarah, that you can trust yourself to avoid hostile places and find friendly ones. And when you get that feeling inside, it's your intuition guiding you. Follow it.
Yeah.
And then my last one is being prepared to do in the early days whatever it took. And I was prepared to do whatever it took in the 70s and 80s. I'm not prepared to do whatever it takes now, interestingly, because I think the moral, political, ethical, and every climate has changed now. It was Wild Westy then, and it isn't now. And you never got into trouble for sticking your neck out or anything in those days. You could do now.
Oh, tell me about it. I've incurred the wrath of many a social media giant.
Well, and also not just them, but, people who police what we do.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing, isn't it? I saw a really good thing about Rowan Atkinson the other day.
Free speech.
Yeah, about free speech. How comics have to run the risk. In fact, they're not doing their job if they're not offending people.
Yeah, that's true.
A couple of very funny quotes from Stephen Fry and someone else whose name escapes me, and I just thought, oh, that's so true. Because, the whole point of being a comic is to say things that are going to upset people, because they're poking at the truth, aren't they?
I suppose that has a parallel in this as well, because when we're being brave, we're being true to ourselves and doing what we know to be right, even if it is a little unpopular. You don't want to back down out of not wanting to offend other people or having people not be mean to you. The truth isn't much liked, is it? No, and the people who believe the exact opposite seem to be getting, there is a lot of nastiness, and Twitter's an absolute
I don't know what you call it.
It's a cesspool, the word for it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And I literally go on once a day to see what the news is, because I tend to get my news from there. But try not to get sucked into any of the reading the absolute diametrically opposed arguments that people put forward, because it just gets very confusing. I feel much better since I'm detached from it all. I really do, which I've done recently. Okay, so
let's talk about. I want to talk about one thing before we stop, which is, how does one become braver? One step at a time. It's like everything. Every week we come down to this. It's like, have a little go, yes, and then have another little go, and have another little go, and then in a year's time, you're 52 little goes away from where you were, and you're braver already.
Absolutely, you're braver, and people know about you, and they wouldn't have known about you if you hadn't taken that first brave little step.
And what brave things do you do in your life already? And can you bridge it from there to something else?
And what do you enjoy doing? Do you enjoy having a conversation with a friend on Zoom and recording it and turning it into a podcast, perhaps? Would you enjoy...
I do think steering by what you enjoy is a brilliant tip.
Yeah, because you're not going to do it otherwise. You're totally not.
And also, I think it relates to the right sort of potential client for you.
Yes, because the right client is going to enjoy the output.
They're going to get the vibe. Yeah.
And I really try to model with my behavioural online thing, which is not called that anymore. I try to model what I want my clients to do, and that was one of the reasons that, again, I restarted the v-zine, because if I'm telling them to create content every week and I'm not doing it myself, then it sort of makes me to be a fraud, doesn't it? But if I'm creating a simple, and I really do keep it simple, I try to make it as unsophisticated as possible, because that's what they'll be producing. And so I try to model what I tell my clients to do.
You see, I think that's what's good about that story, is that it feels right to you. So you've actually perfectly demonstrated the last point. Do what feels right.
And the editor is your friend. I mean, you would not believe how bad those most recent v-zines were on the first pass. But you just stop and you carry on, and then you edit it out. And you can actually turn yourself into quite someone who can string a sentence together when you can.
And also, being scared to be out there. Sometimes our podcasts are great. Sometimes they're not so great. Sometimes they're boring. Sometimes they're interesting. Sometimes they're more professional. Sometimes we're better than we were in the beginning. But we don't have, we carry on regardless.
Yeah, we don't have performance anxiety. We're more about turning up and getting it done.
Well, sometimes we have a little bit of navel gazing, but it's like 5% out of 100, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's crack on, create the content, let the people enjoy it, or let them move on.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing. You've got no control over whether anyone likes you. All you can do is put it out there and see. And you'll be amazed, I think, how many people do like you.
Who's your, not necessarily in real life, it could be in fiction, who's your sort of bravery model? Because in NLP, they teach you to step into the shoes of somebody that you admire because of their bravery. Have you got anybody like that?
Well, quite a few, I suppose. I try and channel my inner Gary V.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's a thing, Sarah. Who do you admire for their bravery? And, what they taught me to do in an NLP class, do you see this? Because she's a therapist, so she probably knows these techniques, that, there's a circle on the floor, and when I step into it, I'm Tina Turner.
Oh, nice.
with her chutzpah on stage. So I think that was, whatever I was after at the time in whenever it was,
Right, okay, so what is your word of the week then?
Maths.
Okay.
Because it's been so life-changing for my client's other half this week.
Very nice. And mine's fans, because the fans have been so life-changing.
They've been life-changing. They have, the fans, yes. And I'm going to put in brackets electric, not fans.
Well, Heather thought last week I really should go and buy a fan if it's going to be really, really hot. And she didn't do it. And on Tuesday after we went to my dad's, she went all round Tesco's, all round all the B&Qs. She couldn't get a fan for love nor money.
What I think is annoying about the fans, if I may for a moment, is that you have to give them house room for 365 days of the year for the 5 days when England is as hot as this.
Well, Phoebe's been very cunning. She's bought flat pack fans that we can disassemble again on.
You can also, there is a whole business that, rents out air conditioning units for short term as well.
I wish there was someone who rented sunbeds down our beach, that's for sure, because I don't really want to buy one of those for the few short days I'm going to be using.
There you go.
But I can't go with that one, so there we go. Project updates?
Yes, you go first.
I'm just trying to be organised and gather my assets together, because next week I start 2 weeks promotion for the next challenge, 5-day challenge, and I'm trying to be organised and get things like, my testimonials in one folder, my memes in another folder, my posts written that got engagement last time, my videos, trying to gather it all together before the event. Otherwise I'll be scrabbling around every day trying to find content to put out, and I hate doing that.
Okay.
What about you?
I'm exactly the opposite. It was so hot yesterday I couldn't do my Jordan Peterson question to just sat here, and I thought, it's so hot, I can't do that just to say to Nicola, the reward wasn't great enough. So, I could say to you today I'd done another one. I couldn't sit at my desk after the 6th hot day in a row when Marion had tapped, and we tapped on how cross I was about how hot I was. I simply could not sit at my desk for a moment longer than necessary.
My ankles are swelling. That's something shocking.
My edema's gone. It's a miracle.
You're what?
My edema's gone. It's a miracle.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It just disappeared when I went to Leslie's. It comes back. It's nothing like it used to be all my life. And several days this week in those monster temperatures, ankles thin as a lath and shoes loose.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
I know. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to sit on the sofa with my legs
I'll
up.
tell you what I think it is. It's either a combination, and I think you've just disproved one of my theories. It's either the anti-COVID vitamins, and you're taking them too, so it's clearly not that. I think it's my... I eat everything I'm going to eat between 12 and 4, and then I don't eat anything for 8, 60, however many hours that is, 20. I think it's the intermittent fasting.
Right.
They're the only things I've done differently.
Right. Well, you've lost weight, presumably, with the intermittent.
No, I haven't. I don't know that I have. I think it's just, it heals the body. That's the point. The intermittent fasting is about healing.
Yeah.
When you don't eat, your body is distracted from, what's that
digestion.
thing? Your digestion into healing. Yeah.
It's funny you should say that, because I'm thinking of starting it myself and doing low carb after watching Thingy Mosley on.
Well, the brilliant thing in the hot weather, of course, is I don't want to eat as much. I don't know about you.
No, it's got to be cold.
I couldn't be bothered with my lunch yesterday at all.
Yeah. Okay, and finally, who or what's impressed you this week?
I'm going to go back to the couple about the maths, because what they're trying to do is buy a property or two within a reasonable budget that has a passive income as well as somewhere lovely for them to live. And my client and I had a conference about it. And then there was a lot of excited looking at potentials. And I noticed that as the emails came in sequentially over the next sort of 3 weeks, laying aside for the moment the ones about the maths excitement, they were getting further and further away from what we'd agreed about passive income by having their heads turned by what properties were on the market. And I thought to myself, now, I can nag them and bring them back to the point, or I can let them learn by the error of their ways. And they kept saying, in order to make this make sense, we'd have to move out for Christmas and summer and and we need to do this. And it's like, none of it was passive and all of it was uncomfortable. Yeah. And I thought, I can let them learn by their mistakes, or I can drag them back to my worldview of how this would be done better. And I sat quietly, and in the end, this is how they've impressed me, they got there themselves. They sent an email saying, we've been horribly distracted by all these beautiful houses that we can buy. Thank you for bringing us back to the point. I didn't really. I sort of sheepdogged them back to. I was very gentle in my responses, which is I think I eventually did say, "Oh, I'm so pleased," because I did think you were getting horribly distracted. When you're going to buy A and then you go on Rightmove and you see B and you think, "Oh my God, that's so beautiful," and you buy B and it doesn't meet any of the criteria that you had in mind to begin with.
And you imagine it's going to make your life absolutely perfect.
But they got there in their own. I'm impressed because they got there in their own way without me having to be strictly pants.
Very good.
What about you?
I've been seriously impressed by an accountant called Robert Breedlove. He's very young. He's now the founder of Parallax Investment Services, and he's a very successful investor himself. And he was on the Pomp podcast, Anthony Pompliano, and he's a big investment trust guy as well, and they're both very successful. And Robert Breedlove gave me the best explanation of what Bitcoin is and how it works and what it does I've ever heard. So I'm going to be pointing anyone who asks me about Bitcoin now. I used to point them at Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money, which is actually a brilliant series, but he didn't really explain Bitcoin as well as this chap did. So, and he was just step by step, and he was absolutely factual and absolutely down to earth. He used minimum words, elegant language. He made sure you got the first point before he moved on to the next point, and I just loved it. It was in a thing called An Open Letter to Ray Dalio, and I'm going to send you the link, Judith.
Okay.
It's just fantastic. And basically what they were both trying to do was to refute Ray Dalio's points about why he'll never invest in Bitcoin. So it was very interesting because they're taking, and Ray Dalio, if anyone doesn't know, is one of the most successful hedge fund managers in the world. He's worth billions, and he's made billions for his clients. So people listen to what he says, and this was a forensic examination and refutation of the points he made, and I just thought it was absolutely brilliant. So that's us done.
It is just done. A very short one this week due to the heat. Please forgive us, listeners.
Yes. Okay, we'll talk to you next week then.
Right, now I need to talk to you on a couple of matters.
Okay, you're gonna call me on Facebook?
Yes.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye. You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.